Becha.
Beautiful.
Becha.
Wow. Go? Look beautiful.
My first thing is to establish the perimeter, the length. Remember we talked about the side being the longest. I don't want to cut her side anymore because it's barely to her shoulder. I'm going to leave that length, but I'll cut the rest. So I'll use her sides as my guide. And I'm going to trim her sides a little bit. So I'm pointing my finger. I know my guide is here. And I'm pointing my finger to my goal. Remember, I wanted it a little bit shorter in the back. And I can't hold all this, but my finger angle is in the right angle. Her head is tilted down so I can get a nice clean cut. So I've cut half of the guideline. Before I go on, maybe this is not short enough. Look straight. Let me check it now. And yeah, that looks pretty good, huh? Yeah. You can even see the curl of her hair. It's going to do that haircut very easily. It's going to do that hairstyle. So yeah, that's good. I wanted to take a look now before I do the whole thing. For me to make sure, I haven't cut her hair before. I don't know if the two sides are even to begin with. So I'm going to come to the front. I'm going to take a piece on this side. This side is drying. I want to make sure it's evenly wet. Right? Because dry hair shrinks. So I need to make sure that it's evenly wet. Take a section here and a section here, bring it to the middle. This side already looks shorter. So let me go. That means I'm not going to cut that piece. I might have to adjust that side. Let's go a little further. And that's good. So yes, I'm going to use this as my guide. So I will cut now, continue from this piece to this piece here. And that way both sides will be even. Now you can look down. So I can't hold all that hair, but this is my goal. This is my length, so I could place my finger correctly right to my guide here and point my finger to my destination. So this is longer. I need to point my finger down a little bit so it'll take me there. I still can't hold all that, but I can see which direction I need to go in. I see this guide. Okay, so my zero is, so I'll go longer than I think, always, and I'll go a lot longer than I think. Take a little snip. And before I do anything, she has a strong cowlick right there. I'm going to kind of lift it and separate it and see what happens to that strand. And I think I can go shorter, so I'll go shorter. And the bang is almost dry, which is good. Is this okay? So that's going to be my guide. That's my bang guide. That same piece is what I'm going to use to help me establish a guide surrounding her parting. Do you part your hair, Pari, on one side or the other? How do you? No.
Sometimes this side, other side, sometimes center.
Yeah, and how do you find the natural part? You comb the hair straight back and you just kind of let it fall, and it's going to tell you exactly where it wants to part. So I'm going to take that front guide, use it, and take a section that will surround the parting, bring it back to the crown, and establish a guide. So I need to look for that front piece, the bang, which is this one. That's my guide. And her bangs in the picture are a little bit shorter than the layers. So I am going to angle back so that her layers can go a little bit longer. So my guide is here. I'll cut that much. And if I do, look where they're going to fall. I'm going to go longer than the bang. The bang was to here, so I'll go to here. And because I could point cut, and maybe on some clients you would point cut, but on Pari, she has fine hair. And if I point cut fine hair, I'm going to make it look thinner. Now this haircut has movement, but it is full too, so I don't want to over thin. Maybe I'll point cut and texturize later, but for now I'm going to leave it like it is. So once again, I'm going to divide that in half. But before I was doing the fringe at the end. Now I'm going to do the fringe here because I don't want to blend this layer with all of this hair. I need to know what to do in between. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the fringe now. Sorry. And her hair was already layered. So I need to keep this length here. I don't want to overcut. So I will pick up a section that's going to take me from her bang down to the length. And the same on the other side, of course. I want to be really careful not to cut this any shorter. Okay, so I'm done there. Still same concept. You're going to blend between the top guide and the length. If you don't see, there's my guide. I didn't see it earlier, but there's my guide now. I need to find both guides, the top guide and the length guide. So I'll lift up a little bit. I don't want to cut the side length because that's a really important length there. And I'm just going to move around the head. Top guide. Length. Now I'm at the back. Top. And the length. I want to drop some of the guide though. I want to make sure I don't cut into the guide. So lifting up the elbow will make sure that I don't cut into the guide. Do you notice how my finger angle changed as I'm working in the back than on the sides? I wasn't cutting this low on the sides. I was actually lifting up my elbow when I was doing the sides, right? Because I had to drop my guide. But here, I am able to stay lower. Look for my top guide. There it is. My bottom guide. A little bit of the old and a little bit of the new. Not her, you. So this section is transitioning from the sides to the back. Now I'm at the side. Okay, so time to check it. And to play a little bit with either the thinning shears or the razor. So if you have somebody with fine and bleached hair, you might choose to do the thinning shears rather than the razor to give you any texture. Because the thinning shears are going to give you blunt edges. Okay. But I might not need to. Now thinning shears can do two things. They could thin the hair or they could texturize the ends. When you texturize the ends, you get more movement. When you thin the hair, you're reducing bulk. So for Pari, I wouldn't reduce bulk, but I would use them on the ends to give me more movement. So we're just going through to check. Drop the guide. go ahead and point cut a little bit with my thinning shears. Huh? Point cut, yeah, I want more movement. So, I'm not going to thin Pari's hair, but I want to show you if you were to thin somebody's hair. Let's say she had too much hair. You would take a section that, if this was the top of the hair that was going to grow over, I want to cover what I've thinned. Because if you thin close to the scalp and you want volume, or you just thin, you don't want little pieces poking out. So you want the weight of this hair on top to weigh over what you've done. But that's if you're thinning somebody's hair. I'm not thinning Pari's hair. I want to add movement to the ends. So look down, Pari, for a little bit. So I'm going to take sections. Doesn't matter which angle. I don't want nice clean sections. And I'm just going to open and close my thinning shears at the ends. And you don't want to do it all consistently in the same. Like I don't want to measure 2 inches out and do it 2 inches out and do this one 2 inches out, because then her hair will protrude and fall evenly. And we don't want that necessarily. I want it to be a little jagged. So do you notice how I'm kind of point cutting with the thinning shears? Just on the ends so I can get a little bit more movement. And Pari's hair is not heavy, so I think we can get movement without doing too much. And always one side is thicker than the other. Pari, on this, her left is a little thicker than the right. So I'll take a little bit off of there, and that's enough. Okay.
Good job, Pari. Good job.
Beautiful.
Good job.
Wow. Go? You look beautiful.